Hey guys, this is Daniel with PwnCNC for the first video of the year 2024. This is going to be exciting. This is going to be an exciting year. We got a lot planned. Hope you guys are going to WorkbenchCon here at the end of February. We will be there in a big way. But for now, let's go ahead and dig into our tube bundle, one of our most popular product sets, our bundles. This allows you to put a V2 or V3 dust boot onto a Onefinity or a Shipoko or something like that, a different machine. But we're going to talk about specifically the Onefinity. I've got the Onefinity Elite machine here. Many of the Onefinity machines, they all mount the same. The same principles apply. So what we're going to talk about are the various pieces that is included in the bundle, and then show you a couple tips and tricks on how to install it so that it goes in smoothly and works exactly as we designed. Let's dig into it. So I've removed the spindle for just to keep everything out of the way and clear, so we can see everything that's going around the Z carriage and that sort of thing. So what we've got here is I've got a fully assembled V3. These things are super easy to install. You install the wings, the acrylic, the faceplate, the brushes. It looks like I've got to put a little more glue on there. Which, by the way, if a magnet ever pops out on you, just add a little bit of, leave the magnet on the face, put a little bit of glue in the hole, and then press them together and allow it to dry, and that will stick them together permanently. So what we've got is we've got our dust boot. You'll notice I've also got the tube. This is a used tube. I've used it quite a bit on my machine. I've already super glued the hose attachment portion on one end and one of the mag rings on the other. Now what I like to do whenever I align the two is I try to make sure that this flat spot right here is lined up with two of the magnets on the ring. That way whenever it's mounted, this part is the flattest part, which comes closest to the machine, and it just sits nicer. So align that, allow that, set that aside to glue or to dry. Next we've got our extension adapter. This comes in 5 pieces, so you can have a 45-degree or a 90-degree. I've got it in the 90-degree configuration. We've got the attachment portion. These just screw together. So I've got the boot side. I've got the 2-inch long extension, and then of course I've got the 90-degree piece, which has another boot style attachment, which connects right onto the end of the tube. I've already assembled the Elite arms. This includes a longer screw, thumb screws for the Elite machine in order to get past all of the attachment pieces here, or the Z carriage part that goes up and down. Then of course we've got our thumb screws, or our thumb nut plates and our thumb screws, and I've got it all assembled. We can talk about that later, or I can give you a link. We've got this in the KB. It's well described in how to assemble these together. So I put 2 of them together. You notice they are going in the forward-facing direction for the Elite machines. Next, I've got the actual tube attachment. This is the attachment that connects onto the ultimate hose clamp and allows you to snap it right onto the tube. And this holds the tube loosely so that the tube can continue to go up and down if necessary. And I've got a couple. Your kit, your bundle may include extra parts. I'm just pointing out all the parts that you will need for this. Just set the other ones aside, use them for a different project. They're yours to keep, obviously, but they're for slightly different configurations. What we're talking about here is the Onefinity Elite. So I've got a couple M5 by 14 screws. These will hold the attachment on either side. There is a third one in your bag. You can use that here along with the square nut, but that is entirely optional. We've got a drop arm. This is what the drop arm looks like. We take 2 of the M5 by 30 millimeter screws, place the top part next to the arm part, attach it there, drive the 2 screws into the plastic down inside. Don't over tighten those, but once they're tight, you will never have to remove that again. So that's a solid piece right there. That piece will also be held on by a couple of M5 by 14 screws. And again, if you wanted to, on the bottom of the base piece, This is the Onefinity base. This allows you to mount it right onto the top of the X carriage, and we'll show that here in a little later in the video. I've got one of the earlier versions of it, which has this little cutout notch. All new versions do not have this extra attachment here, so just ignore that. Let's go to the next step. So we're looking at the rear of the Z carriage, the XZ carriage. The X part is the part that goes left and right. The Z part is the part that actually holds the router and goes up and down. The whole thing is considered the XZ carriage. And what I've got here is I've got my adapter plate here. It's loose because I pulled the screws out. I'm actually going to use the 2 M6 screws that comes with the ultimate hose clamp. We'll use that to attach it. So I've got my sensor bar right here. This is for the Onefinity Elite. I'm going to drop the Onefinity base into place, and then I'm going to take these screws. I do want to note that occasionally, depending on how it's printed, there may be a couple of strings there. Just force the screw through it. It will be fine. You're never going to see that part, and it does not affect the functionality or stability of the part. So once we've got those in, we're going to take, what is this? This is a M5 hex wrench. We're just going to tighten that down. You're going to remove the screws that were there, and you're going to use our screws because our screws are a bit longer. Just set the other screws aside, maybe in a kit of all the other parts that you have for your Onefinity. You'll notice I've also got my spindle wires all bundled up here just to keep them out of the way. We're going to take now the drop arm and those two M5 by 14 screws. This is not magnetic. This just holds into place. This is meant to be screwed in and left in place, not actually removed often like I do some of these attachments whenever I'm switching. So I'm just going to hold it up into place. I'm just going to use the 2 screw method instead of the 3 screws. Again, you can use 3 if you want. It is okay that these things wiggle a little bit. It does not affect the functionality of it. The drop arm basically takes this attachment point and drops it down to a little closer, because as these machines evolve, we've noticed that the XZ carriage tends to get taller and taller. So we've invented these drop arms so that we can get that same attachment point, especially since we can't get these acrylic tubes in longer lengths from that particular supplier. So we can only get them in the 1 foot length. So we're working with what we got. So now that I've got the drop arm in, I'm going to grab the attachment. I'm going to put that into place. And again, the 2 screw method, although you can use the 3 screw. In case you wanted to use the 3 screw, drop the square nut down in there and put a dab of super glue or something right there to hold it in place. Since the positioning of this is vertical, and if you just left it there without any glue or something to hold that nut in there, it will just fall out. So I typically use super glue whenever I want to use that 3rd nut, or that 3rd mounting screw. But again, I typically don't because I'm constantly rearranging my machine. So we've got our attachment point for our tube. The tube will actually just sit right there and raise and lower as the boot is raised and lowered. So we can just leave that right there if we want. I like to leave it off just for simplicity. And let's flip you around to the front side and we will attach the bracketing. All right, now we're going to tackle the bracketing. The bracketing is super easy. If you guys have had a socket, you're probably pretty familiar with this. We're going to take the L part that we pre-assembled. We're going to take the thumb screw, drop it into place, hold the nut. Now this is kind of hard with a broken thumb, but hold that nut in place, drop the, now you'll notice there's a notch right here, so that's the right side, and we've also got the notch and the track both correspond. They're on the same side of the L. So we're going to drop that into place, line it up so that I can actually thread the thumb screw. Oh, where'd it go? There it goes. Just thread that right onto it. We're going to do the exact same thing to the other side. Again, super easy. Hold it, install. Now I'm going to raise it up just about a ½ inch or an inch, just to make it simplicity. Yeah, simple. This is a V3 dust boot with a larger opening, but with the 2½ inch hose. So we're going to drop this into place. Again, thumb, so I'm going to push it up against my belly. There we go. Snap that into place. We don't want that. This isn't something that's going to be removed and installed constantly. So having that rough joint right there is perfectly fine. It gets it into place, it locks it into place, and keeps everybody's costs low, right? We can drop that into place right here. Now, this machine has already been lined up so that when the router or spindle is in place, this circle lines up perfectly with this circle. Now you may need to adjust the wings, and you can adjust the wings here. These two screws hold the wing on, and it allows you to move the wings forward or backwards up to like 42 millimeters. So quite a bit of stretch here. So just in case you need that extra space, you can move it back and forth. That way you can perfectly align it with whatever router or spindle configuration you've got there. So I've got it installed. I've got it mounted into the machine. Now I do see it. You could probably put a little level there or something and raise up this side, and you can tell. But now that we got this in place, let's switch back over to the other side where we're actually going to install the tube, and I'll show you how to use the hose around here. Now, we have our tube attachment here. We're going to drop that snap that into our attachment, and I can drop this in. Now it looks like I've built this for the configuration of another machine, which means I actually do need to make an adjustment. I need to add that little 1-inch attachment, that extension, so that there's a total of 3 inches of extension onto this 90-degree adapter. So I've got another one here. Looks like I've already attached it, and I may have used some glue in the thread, so these two are pretty much permanently attached. But which you can certainly do, or put a if you're finding this is too wiggly or whatnot, you could put some painter's tape on there just to thicken up those threads, and that will be perfectly acceptable. So I've got the boot adapter, the 2-inch adapter, the 1-inch adapter, and the 90-degree, and that lines it up perfectly so that it's vertical and goes right into the tube. There we go. So snap the tube into place, drop the tube down, and press it into the adapter, and there we go. Now from the front, you can see that whenever I loosen the thumb screws, the whole assembly there in the back will go up and down as needed. That way you can adjust and use the boot wherever it's required. This can adjust as you need. So the last step, of course, is attaching our hose. The tube bundle is designed to go with a 2½ inch hose, and it just mounts right on there. The idea of the tube is basically, I'm standing in the front of the machine. I can just reach back here, twist the hose adapter off, do some local cleanup if I want to, snap it back on, and back to carving I go. So I hope you found that useful installation of the tube bundle onto the Onefinity Elite. It is a really nice setup, I think. I've used it dozens and dozens of times. It solves my problem for all the local cleanup, anything I need, attachments, up and down on the mount. It's all really nice. We would love to hear your thoughts and comments on it down below, or if you need some support or help installing or whatnot, reach out to us at support@PwnCNC.com, and we're more than happy to help. Now, I have got to get back to testing ATC motors. I've got shipments to get onto, and I really want to accelerate that timetable. So yeah, this is Daniel with PwnCNC, and don't forget, don't just own your CNC, dominate it.